Today, we're going to talk about a question a lot of Chicago Bulls are asking themselves. And this has been a conversation in the Bulls community almost since the new front office came on, and especially after trading 2 second-round picks or selling 2 second-round picks, basically, is are the Bulls building the right way, or are we walking potentially into another trap where the Chicago Bulls get capped at the play-in? This offseason has felt a lot different, and I think that when you actually look at it from move to move, there's a lot different. With Bryson Graham now leading the front office, Tiago Splitter the new head coach, the Bulls drafting Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain at 4 and 15, and Matas Buzelis heading into a massive year 3. I'm also going to talk about Josh Giddey and his evaluation of his part of the new core. There's something that's a real case for something being really different with the Chicago Bulls team. And the thing that we said that we've heard a lot of people, we've heard reset, we've heard retool, we've heard flexibility, we've heard all these things far too often in the past. But I'm going to talk about today why this is actually a really good reset button the Chicago Bulls have hit, and why, even though the Bulls do make the play-in this year, it's not the same old Bulls. We're talking about all that, plus Caleb Wilson and the standard set for him in just the first summer league practice and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize. But more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. Before that, though, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We got a goal to get to 50,000 subscribers by the start of the 2026-27 season, which is a huge and lofty goal of about 17,000 more subscribers. But nonetheless, we're going to try to get there. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. In exchange for that, I'll be delivering you guys the best daily content that you will find on the Chicago Bulls, period, that actually adds depth and not just fluff. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it, man. So the Bulls hit the reset. And they hit a full reset. And while a lot of Bulls fans still hold on to things like, oh, all these players are going to be traded, we got to get rid of everybody for it to be reset. No, right? And some people went into this offseason thinking that everybody on the roster had to be 25 or younger. And, you know, I made the video probably about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, that the ideal way to build is that you want about 30% of your minutes to go to players above 25, and then the rest to go below 25, which leaves about 100 minutes for the players that are older than 25, and it seems like Bryson Graham agrees with that. When you look at this roster between Norman Powell, Jalen Smith, Trey Jones, right? Like there's going to be players, Isaac Okoro potentially, that are over 25 that get those minutes, but even then, the Bulls still have one of the youngest rosters, and a lot of our core is going to be a lot younger, right? And I think when you look at this, right, this Bulls offseason is a lot different than what we've had in years, right? And it doesn't automatically mean that we've escaped the middle, right? Or it doesn't automatically mean that we're at the bottom either. But I think that it's more about the direction that this Bulls team is in. You know, a lot of people have made comparisons over the last, couple of months to things that we've seen Arturis do to what Bryson Graham has done. Namely, like some people have made bad comparisons between Caleb Wilson and Patrick Williams. That's one of the worst comparisons that you can make. The second round picks, that move has done some of that. And then also the people, said after the press conference, well, this is all the same things that we heard AK say. And the thing is that AK didn't say the wrong things. AK didn't have an eye for talent, and his execution of the things that he said were piss poor. His actions never really matched the execution that he wanted to be in. He wanted to be competitive, yet he never really built a truly competitive roster, right? And so now this is about the Bulls building the right way. Under a new front office, under a new that, when you look at this, it's finally, the Bulls seem like they finally have a development plan. I think that was even brought together a little bit more by hearing Tiago Splitter even talk at the first summer league practice. And what he's going to do is talk about, we're going to put a lot on Caleb Wilson, Dailyn Swain, and Noa Essengue. Like he sees that plan for those guys, which is really good. And the Bulls have also built more balance. I've seen a lot of Bulls fans make bad comparisons to Norman Powell signing to the DeMar DeRozan signing. And if you really think those signings are similar on surface level, I don't know what to tell you in regards to that one. DeMar DeRozan came in and immediately changed our play style to where we had to go through so many things through him, right? And he wasn't a complimentary player because that's not his play style. Now, we've seen him do things like that with the Spurs or whatever else, but and I think when you go and look at what happened with the Kings, same thing. DeMar wasn't there to compliment. He was there to come in right away and provide a lot. I think when you look at Norman Powell, like his shooting and things in the way that he can get shots without needing the ball a lot, it is there to compliment. On top of that, we're not paying Norman Powell like we were paying DeMar, especially not the years that we were paying DeMar DeRozan. Norman Powell's on basically a one-year deal with an option for a second year. So it's not the same thing. But you're seeing that Bryson Graham is doing what I talked about that I would love to have seen AK do, and that is, if you're going to have young, older players in here, let that be in adding structure to what the younger players need to actually survive, and that's what we go. So, you see it like, you see the optimistic views that we got in Bryson Graham, we got Tiago Splitter, we got Caleb Wilson, we got Dailyn Swain, we got Matas Buzelis. Like, we got these players, and optimistic Bulls fan would say this is the most balanced direction that we've seen in a while. Whereas the more skeptical Bulls fans will look at that and say, here we go again. They drafted young players, but they added vets that still may not be bad enough to be elite lottery odds and could end up back in the play-in zone. Here's the thing. And I think now we also have to change our mindset in the fact that even the play-in zone has changed. The lottery has changed. You are now benefited more to being a better team. And now that you can be a team that makes the play-in, that even wins the play-in and still is in the lottery, there you go in regards to that one. So one of the questions, and one of the biggest questions in this is, are the Bulls finally building the right way? New lead decision maker Bryson Graham, new head coach Tiago Splitter, new young core with Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain added to the players that we already had, and Matas, Noah, and Josh Giddey, and we're going to try to do that. So Bulls fans have a real question. Is this a true rebuild, or is just a smarter looking version of staying in the middle? I think when you look at Graham's hiring and Tiago's hiring and the draft class, is that these are moves that we are moving forward with trying to build, right? So at the Bulls, they did hit a reset, and the major reset comes with the person evaluating it and how the vision that he has and how he can execute that vision, right? This season does feel different already. It feels like a lot different from that because we didn't just swap out role players. We didn't just swap out those. We made real change at the top, and I think that change at the top, that vision, and the ability to execute that vision comes through a new lens, and that's one of the biggest reasons why this team feels different. For the first time, the Bulls feel like they're trying to build something sustainable. AK was trying to piece shit together. He was trying to do whatever he can to keep his job and just piece stuff together and look like this team was going to be competitive. This team has already picked a direction, and in his first offseason, you've seen clear moves and direction on how to execute that vision to the levels we never really saw AK do, right? This offseason has two completely different reads. This is what I'm going to do throughout this episode. The optimistic read, the skeptical read. The optimistic read on what this offseason has been for the Chicago Bulls is the Bulls have added real foundational pieces or pieces that they hope are going to be foundational. They hired a development-minded head coach who is actually not afraid to throw out those young players out to the fire. He already talked about doing that in Summer League. What do you think he's going to do with the regular season? That was something that both AK and Billy Donovan lacked at. AK really lacked an eye for talent, right? He had an eye for a skill set or a prototype of a player, but sometimes that got blinded by looking at and evaluating the actual talent. Bryson Graham is, by all means, a better Italian evaluator, and now you brought in a head coach that's not going to be afraid to throw players to the fire. It's not going to be we're waiting to January to see our rookie play meaningful minutes. That's not going to happen, right? And then you've brought in veterans that help those players grow. Those veterans are going to help these players get to that stage where you need them in. And of course, the skeptical read on this is that the Bulls may still be too attached to being competitive now, which could keep them stuck in play-in territory for however. But I say this, if you're in play-in territory and you're actually doing it through development of young players, not older DeMar DeRozan keeping you uplifted, then that is a lot different than doing that through players that are 30 or close to over 30, right? You're doing that now with your main core being players that are younger than 25, right? And I think this, if you want to see real development, you should want to see them be competitive through that development because that's how you learn what's sustainable, right? Would you rather see the Bulls win 38 games with a real young player development or win 28 games to maximize lottery odds? Some people are going to say maximize the lottery odds, but then again, like I said, that even maximize lottery odds, the look of that has changed. The second part of this is that Bryson Graham and Tiago have to prove that this isn't just a new coat of paint on the same car. Now, and some Bulls fans are going to have that worry because the ownership is still the same, and I understand that. So the question here becomes, what actually has changed under Tiago Splitter and Bryson Graham? That's going to be what we see once the season starts, once we're on the court, right? I think that the new regime and the new identity that they are bringing, it actually means something different for this team because you have people that you can trust. Bryson Graham's early moves so far to me signal a clear theme with what he's adding to this team. Length, versatility, athleticism, defense, and the financial flexibility to be able to then add to this team. What Bryson Graham has basically done in his first year here is set a 2-year development window. When you look at the Norman Powell signing, when you look at the Nic Claxton contract, all that, he's basically said, hey, we have a 2-year window here where if we don't change anything, let's see where we are 2 years, then we can pivot, and maybe the needs of the team have pivoted, and then we have more cap space to do more flexibility in what we need then, right? Caleb Wilson, Dailyn, Swain, they fit the mold of the players that we have. Even the Nic Claxton signing fits that mold. So I think that even Norman Powell being older, the need for shooting and professionalism on the court, that you still need a veteran that helps teach these young guys how to play. When you look at how Norman Powell worked himself up throughout his career, I think that you have that. And then when you look at Tiago's job with this, it's just a development. Establish a standard on the court, establish a standard in that locker room, and establish the fact that you are going to put in work, and these players are going to have to work their ass off, right? This doesn't feel like, with AK, it felt like a let's see what happens. With this front office and this coaching staff, it feels like this is what we're going to make happen through our development, through our decision-making, through being intentional. This is what we're going to make happen. This isn't just about new coach energy. This is more defined roles, a more defensive identity, better player development, a better system that isn't just run and gun where you're actually going to explore the mid-range and open up the full court to players, and the accountability standard that Tiago Splitter is going to want to set. Less confusion late in games, and a real offensive structure behind other than random shot creation that what Billy Donovan tried to live in. What the easiest part is selling a new direction in June and July. The hard part is sticking to the plan in December, January, February, when the Bulls lose 4 out of 5 games or something like that, and when the fans are asking tough questions. I feel like this is a front office that you can feel like is going to answer those tough questions. So this is what needs to happen to prove that this front office is different than the last one. And I'll say this: moving off veterans at the right time, which is something that AK missed on, prioritizing the young players, not chasing the 8th seed, but again, just being competitive and letting be where you're competitive, see where you're going to fall in that one. Using your trade deadline more wisely and developing and drafting well instead of just trying to patch holes like AK did at the time. The Bulls don't need Bryson Graham to be perfect right away, but they do need him to be aligned, and they need the front office and the coaching staff and the roster to be aligned on a certain goal and direction, and that's what you're going to have. Next part, the Bulls have a real young core now. Are they perfect? No, we'll see, right? But they have a young core that we're going to see, are they the real product? Between Josh Giddey, Matas Buzelis, Dailyn Swain, Caleb Wilson, Noa Essengue, you're hoping that all these players develop into a way to where they are meaningful basketball players. Do they all have to develop into stars? No, they don't have to all develop into stars. Hopefully you want 1 or 2 of them out of that to develop into stars, but you have some really good pieces here that are worth the development and worth investing in to see what they have. Caleb Wilson is one of the biggest pieces in that because he represents the Bulls finally getting a high-end draft talent that has the right mindset, the right mentality, and he doesn't need to be a finished star immediately, but seeing the progression of Caleb Wilson over the next few years is going to be extremely fun to see. Matas Buzelis, getting to see him and hopefully a 3rd-year leap that we're all hoping to see from him. And it's not just about can Matas put up numbers. The question is, can he become a winning player with more responsibility and a more aligned two-way player, as Tiago has already said that he wants to develop Matas in. And then Dailyn Swain gives the Chicago Bulls another long, athletic wing who fits the new identity, who hopefully is going to be the starting shooting guard going forward. You pair that with Josh Giddey, who we already know Josh Giddey's the triple-double monster, right? Noa Essengue, another player that has tons of potential, but we got to see what that potential is going to be realized in. Tiago's already planning to use him at the 3, the 4, and the 5 in Summer League, what I think shows that they're trying to see where they can develop him in all those different angles. A successful season for the Chicago Bulls means that you get some answers to this. Not saying you need answers to all these questions, but answers to this. Does Caleb Wilson really look like a future franchise piece? And I'm not saying he needs to be that from day one, but by the end of the season, you need to start seeing some of those things where you're like, man, this guy got it. Can Matas become a real number 2 or a number 1A, whatever it is, or is he a high-end number 3? And I want to be clear in that. There's nothing wrong with that. If Matas Buzelis ends up being a high-level number 3 player on a winning team that you can see that, it's still a role that you absolutely need, right? But I'm not putting a cap on Matas because I think it can be 1A, 1B, a 2, a 3. You got to see what's going to develop in that one. And then Josh Giddey, his part into this long term. You're going to get to see a roster that, like I said, it is built now to where it maximizes a lot of Josh Giddey's strengths, and he's going to come into the season and have a huge opportunity to continue to show even some people that want to continue to deny it how good of a basketball player that he is as well. And then the outside chances. What if Rob Dillingham does look like he's an actual player that you can start building with? What if he does start putting some things together? I'm not the biggest Rob Dillingham fan, but what if he does start showing that, right? What if Noa Essengue starts showing that he's a real piece? I think those are the things that you're looking at. At some point, potential has to turn into proof. And that's what this front office has to start doing with this one, is that potential turning into proof. If that happens, I think you're on the path to a really good spot for the Chicago Bulls, right? And then I think one of the outskirt questions that you may not answer this season, but who's the most important Bull, right? Or who becomes the most important Bull this season? Caleb, Matas, Josh, Dailyn? Like who becomes that? Caleb Wilson's the future star swing. Matas Buzelis is the internal leap swing. And Josh Giddey is the organizer and the guy that offers so much value by raising the floor of the players around him. Number 4, question into this one, the play-in, right? And, I talked about it yesterday. The Bulls have lived in the worst neighborhood that you could possibly live in for a long time. Not terrible enough to get elite draft odds, not good enough to be taken very seriously as a contender during the AK era, and that is what is called the play-in trap. It gives fans a little bit of hope, gives the organization kind of cover, and that's what AK lived under. He lived under that cover of playing until Bulls fans, and they quickly realized that shit don't matter. The uncomfortable part of this is that the Bulls may actually, if everything comes together, they may actually have enough talent to compete for the play-in. The last thing that I want Bulls fans to do is to feel like we're right back to being the same place, because if we do get in the play-in, it's a different mindset, it's a different coach, it's a different philosophy, and it's a different culture that we get into there. It's not a bad thing of getting to the play-in. The problem becomes, what do you do with it? AK lived in being in the play-in and so that as the Bulls being competitive. Bryson Graham, I don't get the thought that being in the play-in is going to be something that he is satisfied with, that he even look at as accomplishing anything. He'll say, all right, cool, we got here, but now what do we do to take the step forward, right? I think when you look at it as this, if the Bulls win because the young core is driving it, that's progress. If the Bulls win because veterans are carrying the offense and while the young guys watch, that's the trap. And that's the trap that we were in under the AK era with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, right? The play-in itself is not evil. It's not there. The issue is how you get there. I think when you look at this, a good play-in path for the Chicago Bulls, Matas becomes a 20-point-per-game scorer. Caleb Wilson forces himself into major minutes and major conversation around the league. Josh Giddey makes the offense easier for everybody. The defense improves because of length, athleticism, and the better construction of the roster, and the young players are the ones that are closing games. A bad play-in path is Norman Powell has to average 28 points per game. Veterans dominate the late-game possessions. Caleb and Dailyn are inconsistent in their minutes and inconsistent in their roles to get to the play-in. The Bulls finish around 10th and still don't know who their core is. That is bad play-in path. And I think the Bulls hopefully are going to be on the right play-in path if they even make the play-in, which is fine, right? I think when you look at it this one, you have to ask yourself is, would you be mad if the Bulls make the play-in this year? You should not be mad if Caleb, Matas, Giddey, and Dailyn or whoever else, the young core is what dragged them there. Now, if you want to be more upset if it's Norman Powell averaging 30 to get you there, then okay, then that's it. Let's get to the final question in this segment. What makes this season a success? How should Bulls fans measure success this season, right? And I think that you have clarity in your young players, have clarity in your direction, have clarity that Tiago Splitter has shown that some things as a head coach that you then look at and you say, hey, we feel like we're on this path, right? A successful season could be 33 wins if the Bulls establish a future. A disappointing season could be 40 wins if we do it through veterans being what gets us there. So it's not just about the wins or loss. It's about, I think success is defined this season by 5 categories. Caleb Wilson starts looking like a cornerstone. We already know that. He doesn't have to be perfect in year 1, but he starts looking like a cornerstone. Number 2, Matas Buzelis takes a real leap in year 3. Number 3, Tiago establishes a real identity as the head coach and the person that's running this team on the court. Number 4, Bryson Graham and his decisions pay off, and we know that he's not somebody who's going to be making decisions in fear, and that he is not going to be somebody who gets sentimental. It's all about building the team the right way and building a winner. And number 5, the Bulls enter next offseason knowing what they need to make the next step. That you have seen so much from your young players that you listen and say, all right, here's where we can let go of this player. Here's where we can do this so we can add this to the bench. Or we need to strengthen the shooting. We need to strengthen our defense. Or our defense is set. We need to add offensive players to the bench because we have a set culture defensively. That's what you want to do. The Bulls do not have to convince me or us that they're back. They have to convince me that they finally know where they're going. That's it. I think that becomes a part of it in this. And as long as the Bulls do that in this season, I think you have to mark this season as a success, personally. But let me know what you guys feel on that part down below. But all right, before we get out of here, I do want to talk about Caleb Wilson. and what is already showing himself in Summer League, because I think Caleb Wilson is such a competitor. And while Summer League, and I want to be clear in this, I keep saying this, do not try to take these big takes from Summer League, because I don't think that that's what you need to do in regards to this one. But when he talked about having jitters in his first practice, right? He went through his first NBA practice in Summer League, and that's a big week for him. Like, Caleb Wilson has had a big week. First Bulls practice, first time with Chicago media, first Summer League game coming up at the end of this week, the first kind of pro appearance for him. And when you hear Caleb Wilson admitting that he had to shake off some jitters because he's not played a real game since his thumb injury, I think that matters a lot for a few reasons, because he's been waiting months to get back on the court, and this kid is hungry to get out there and improve himself. The excitement is real, and as he said, he just wants to win, right? I do think that what we're hearing out of that first practice as well is that it points to a player who lives and breathes in the gym. And that's always a good sign of. We've had too many players that have come through here that we've had to question their drive to be great. You don't have to question that with that, right? And so Caleb Wilson, this is a quote from Caleb Wilson. I remember getting injured, and all I ever was thinking about, I'll be playing on July 10th. And that was like 3, 4, or 5 months ago. So I've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. It's kind of surreal to see how fast it all went by, but I'm definitely getting excited to play. I feel like when I do play there, it'll be kind of like today. A little jitters because you haven't played in a long time, but I'll be great. Tiago's quote about Caleb Wilson, where he said this: he's been great. He's very open to learn and also speaking up on what he thinks is the right thing to do. I think he's a really bright kid. Of course, he's still learning, but he's hungry to get better. He's showing every day that he's here working hours and hours to get better. Man, I love that. But that's not where it stopped. Tiago Splitter talked about his goal with him, saying this: my goal with him is that there's a lot of expectations on him. Just calm down, just play basketball, just hoop. We're going to have time to work. This is not even close to what he's going to be. Just be patient and enjoy the moment. Hey, listen, alignment between your head coach and alignment between the player that you hope is going to be there is excellent, right? And, Tiago Splitter also went on to say that, the size and the athletic ability that Caleb Wilson has is special, right? And he said it's something that you don't see often in the league. And I think that's really good, right? And that's overall is that the Bulls got the right mentality. We're going to have to see if he's the right player. But what Caleb Wilson said in regards to the Summer League was win. What he wants to do is win. He said win. That simple. And I love that drive from somebody like Caleb Wilson, because, again, whatever ends up happening as far as the development, you want somebody like him to lead that. And you want people that are going to maximize their potential. And the reason why, when people ask things like, why are people so confident in Caleb Wilson? Because when you have a mentality like that, you trust that player to maximize on the potential that they do have, because he actually gives a shit about playing basketball. And it's not a lot that we could say that about the last time we picked number 4. And I'm going to leave it at that, man. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, man, to this episode, man. Sound off down below on what you think about the new direction for the Bulls. How excited are you about Summer League? Sound off on all of that down below, because it seems like we have a team that's finally finding its alignment. And you already saw what that did with the Chicago Bears. Now let's, as the Bulls, let's go ahead and find our alignment. Let's get it done. And let's hopefully come out of this next phase into a much more solid foundation that we actually look like we're going somewhere. But make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or a live stream. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is because of you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls, love you guys, see you ready if you can, y'all. Peace!
This has been a presentation of Great